Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you to the people who donated already before we even went live. I appreciate you guys so much. We were originally going to do our charity at the beginning of the year for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which we are still going to do. However, last week when we started that charity, I said that that would be our charity for the beginning of the year unless something devastating happened in the meantime. And I feel like it did. I feel like I shouldn't have said that because obviously the situation in California is crazy. So we have redirected our charity for, what was the name? It's such a long charity name. The California Emergency Wildfire Recovery Fund. So the reason that I selected this particular charity, and thank you to everybody, Lewis who donated, Fatty Pancake who donated, Anonymous who donated. I chose this charity in particular because it specifically focuses on underrepresented groups who need help. So elderly, disabled individuals, non-English speakers. I'm hoping that homeless are linked in there as well. So individuals who might not get as much help because obviously, you know, it's unfortunate that lots of celebrities are losing their homes, but they likely have,
they're fine.
They likely have money to replace things. Whereas I'm more worried about the people who just happen to live there, who, you know, don't have a lot of money to be able to replace everything. And so anyway, please consider donating. We will go back to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention at some point, but I feel like because this is an ongoing issue, it just started, we should probably try to help them as well. Thank you to Science and Snark. Thank you to Mabel the Woodle.
We are doing an Ask Me Anything today, so go ahead and start getting questions in while she's announcing all this.
Absolutely. Today, you know, every few months I like to do just an open Q&A, and I realized we haven't given you guys just the opportunity to ask your own questions in 4 months. It was like way before the holidays. So we're long past due for just an open question. Oh, Miranda, Jessica, look at you guys. Thank you so much. Let's see what we can do for Vicky. You guys are amazing. Oh, I love our community so much. Thank you guys. So at around 12:30, Mark will need to head upstairs and leave me for a little while because we're about to get hit by another snowstorm. And our daughter is actually being released from school 2 hours early today because they have to get the whole district home before the snowstorm hits.
Yeah, and most of the, like the high schoolers and stuff don't get out of school until way later in the afternoon when the snow is going to be worse. So they got to get the younger kids home early so they can start getting the high school kids shuttled home before the snowstorm hits.
Jessica started reading the channel. That's awesome. Me and Amber Marie were actually just trading notes because she's writing a book as well, and we're going to trade notes. And because I'm very early in the, I know it's been 3 years since I wrote my first book, and I'm still very early in the second book. My priorities have been crazy. But anyway, thank you for getting it, though. That's absolutely awesome. And thank you, Gina, for donating. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just answer your questions. They can be about Etsy. They can be about SEO. They can be about eRank. I'm pretty darn good with Instagram marketing. If you have questions about social media marketing, branding, I'm happy to answer anything that I can. And if for any reason I don't know the answer, I'll just let you know that I don't know. So, oh, and thank you, Kim.
Do you suggest deleting an old listing that isn't selling or just starting fresh or just fixing photos and SEO?
Even the most dead listing can be recovered. Hi, mister. How you doing? So, that sounds like someone beating on the door.
It sure does.
So anyway, it's a crazy day. There's not really any reason to start fresh. My first question would be, does the listing have any sales at all? If the listing has any sales at all, even if it's just a couple, and even if they were a long time ago, I would recommend keeping that same listing because it's still probably got a little bit of positive history, and it's still going to have a listing quality score, even if it's been a while since it's sold. The only reason that I would completely get rid of a listing altogether is if that listing has ever gotten like bad reviews, or if it's only received bad reviews, like 1 or 2 bad reviews, not a huge deal. But if you feel like that listing is actually damaged, like the listing quality score has taken a negative hit and it has caused that listing to, not perform very well. You can, if it's never sold before, it's okay to start fresh. If mentally you feel like you would like to give it another shot at the algorithm, that is a-okay. But it's not necessary. You don't have to, because even the worst listings can be kind of resurrected. Was that Amazon?
No, it was our female cat desperately wanting attention.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Thank you to VP, the vice president here, has donated. Thank you. Thank you, Sandy.
How do I get to the after order page for digital sales so I can customize a message?
That should be, so you mean the message that automatically sends after they make a purchase? That should be within your backend shop settings. You should be able to access that. I'm like visualizing my Etsy dashboard. Oh, it'll be somewhere within your left nav. When you're in your actual dashboard, you should have a settings page within there.
If somebody in the chat knows, go ahead and post it, because we're not entirely sure.
Right. I know that it's in your left nav under your settings. It's hard to visualize, but it is in there. I just can't remember exactly what the page is called. I know it's within settings, but I can't remember where to go from there without actually seeing it. But if somebody's got their Etsy shop open right now, feel free to take a peek.
SEO question. Does it matter if you use a hyphen in the word or not, i.e. anti-whatever or anti-whatever? So as far as we know, those just qualify as a space. Etsy should see that as just as a space. And correct me if I'm wrong if they've changed that, but any delimiter, slashes, dashes, anything like that will be just considered as a space.
Yeah, I would take them into the compare keywords tool over at eRank and see which one is being more searched by shoppers, just to compare.
I know eRank treats it as a space, so that won't.
I think that eRank treats it exactly as the shopper types it in, because it's based on those actual, the exact searches. So if you did it within the compare keywords tool, you should be able to see which one out of the two, if there's any difference, which one shoppers are more likely to type in. Even if Etsy sees it the same, I would just go with whatever shoppers are more likely to search.
Yeah.
Same with
that's best case with everything.
Same with plurals. Etsy knows that, shirt and shirts are the same thing and they're going to show the same results. Plurals don't matter. But I always tend to try to use whichever one shoppers are typing in exactly. So I'll usually sit and do a compare keyword search and then use that one.
What do you mean you wonder where Bubbers is?
Where's Bubbers? He's right here.
He's right there.
I'm right here. Being a good man. Being a mighty good man. Oh, you mean Toots is wondering where Bubbers is?
No, they said I wonder where Bubbers is. Oh. Since all computer monitors and phone screens are calibrated differently, way differently, how do I make sure the artwork I sell on Etsy is displayed as accurately as possible? I mean, if you want the technical answer, get a monitor that is as close to color accurate as you can, and then it's best case scenario for everything across the board. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about a customer having a crappy, like, $45 monitor that they bought in 1984. I mean, really, there's nothing that you can do about that. So as long as you're making sure that you're about as close as you can get, I know, and they're not particularly cheap, but some of the more recent Asus Pro Art, I think that's all one word, PROART. The smaller 1440p to 4K monitors, I think, are like in the $400 to $900 price range, depending on what you get.
Which is pretty low for a high quality monitor.
Yeah, because a professional like studio quality monitor that's specifically for like video and picture editing will probably set you back $3 or $4 grand for something like purpose built for that thing.
But it's a business expense.
Well, tech is getting easier to build, and that's making the price go down. especially as gaming monitors and things, a lot of the times, like mine is not made for picture editing. Mine is strictly a gaming monitor, and it is 100 or it's 99.9% Adobe color accurate. So, I mean, look for color accuracy when you get your computer parts. If you're using something like pretty much anything built by Apple in the last 5 to 10 years, they're pretty close. Yeah, I mean, that's really all I can recommend. You can also get, let me see what they're called.
Thank you to Sandy for donating and to Belinda for donating. That's a good boy.
So I think you can get these, deny cookies. You can get these on Amazon, I believe. I'm going to go ahead and screen share. You can get these color calibrators. They're at-home color calibrators. They're relatively simple to use. They have decent instructions with them. I think they're like $170. They're not going to be an end-all be-all, especially, I mean, monitor quality is monitor quality. There's only so much you can do about that. But those will kind of help you ensure that you're getting the best out of the monitor that you do have if you do. So
be careful. Bubbers is spicy. He bit me. Don't know. You bit me. No love. He's like trying to grab me now. All right.
But yeah, is just making sure that you're as accurate as you can be is the best that you can do.
All right, I'll pet you, but don't bite.
Not to mention, just on the color accuracy side of things, even if your monitor is 99, 100% color accurate, if the lighting in your room is goofy, that can affect how you perceive those colors and how those come out, depending on how much light is hitting the monitor, how much backlight you use, how accurate the backlight you use is. So if you're really, really concerned about color calibration, like if you're making digital stuff and you like needs to be color accurate, depending on the customer or whatever, having it set up in the way that your room usually is and then color calibrating it with something like the Spider will get you the closest to what you need, because it bases it off of your room's light as well.
Thank you to Amber for donating.
I have a set of cat note cards that continue to sell well, but I wonder if I should design something new and retire the old design.
Do you remember when Coke decided to make what they called New Coke in it was the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And you know, they thought because they put new on it and they improved their flavor that it would do well, and it ended up not doing well because people preferred, you know, the old Coke. Your customers are telling you what they want. So discontinuing something that's actively selling probably isn't in your best interest. Now, what I would recommend doing is, you know, it's not like, I'm assuming your products aren't, you know, limited edition to the point where you couldn't continue making the old ones. Make another listing and add the new design as another, you know, option. Have more than one option if you're wanting to, you know, spruce them up or try a different design style. But unless there's a reason that you would want to discontinue the old ones, I wouldn't, especially if they're actively selling.
Because of my situation with the renewals, I've been testing that this week. The new listings are majorly outperforming the spruced and renewed ones.
Yeah, Miranda has been having some really funky stuff. The new listings are majorly outperforming. Okay, interesting. Yeah, Miranda's had some weird stuff going on in her shop. We've been responding. Kate had said, how do I control the please leave a review part for digital sales on Etsy? Do you mean...
Oh, sorry about that.
Kate, what specifically are you referring to? Are you referring to the swipe files? Are you referring to Etsy sending an automatic message? You know, asking people to leave the review? I'm not quite sure where in the journey you're referring to, so feel free to elaborate.
It's a good question because I have listings that are pretty dead, and I don't know if it'll clutter the store or if it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter.
No.
I mean, cluttering the store. The only time that I think that a store is cluttered is, let's say that I go to like a POD shop, and let's say that shop specializes in shirts with, you know, different breeds of dogs on them, and I go in and every color variant, every, you know, style of shirt that they have, sweatshirts, they have individual listings for, you know, red shirt with Chihuahua, blue shirt with Chihuahua, purple shirt with Chihuahua, sweatshirt with Chihuahua, but it's all separate listings, and for every single breed, to the point where, you know, the whole first page of their shop is just one breed, and I've got to sift through 6,000 listings just to find a white shirt with a Chihuahua on top of all the listings with German Shepherd shirts and Pug shirts and Labrador shirts, where, you know, you could just do t-shirts with Chihuahua and then have the color variants available, and then sweatshirts with Chihuahua and have the color variants available where they could be grouped. That's the only time that I really consider a shop to be cluttered. Or if there's a bunch of, you know, the exact same item listed over and over again, and you're not just A/B split testing, you know, it's okay to do that if you want to like test performance of 2 different thumbnails, or if you're just doing, you know, 2 listings to see which one's title performs better. That's not really a big deal, but I've seen some sellers that literally have like 5 of the same listing for no apparent reason in their shop, and it's more confusing than anything.
Any suggestions on how to move away from the free shipping over $35? We've offered it since 2020 and tried turning it off, but our sales absolutely tanked. Turned it back on, but it eats into our profits bad.
I mean, you really just got to pull a Band-Aid off. I hate to say it. If it's something that you need to move away from, what we did was with Etsy's recent push, they are trying to get shipping under $6. So you charge, or I'm sorry, was it 6 or 5? 6. Yeah. Shipping under $6. So what we did was all of our shipping is now $6. I actually think we did $5 for our shipping. But anyway, set your shipping to $6, but then absorb the rest into your product cost. That way you're not necessarily doing the free shipping over $35. You know, you still have a shipping price, but the shipping will never be over that, say, $7 threshold, because you've absorbed the rest of it into your product cost. I believe that for our shop, we decided to do all shipping is $5. And then we absorbed the rest of the shipping price into our product cost, just because I don't know why. $5 to me feels a lot less mentally than $6. I don't know why. It's like, I think of like bills, like the physical bill in my hand, and I think of, you know, 1s, 5s, 10s. So when I feel like, just for me at least, when you go over, you know, a $5 bill, you start thinking as, you know, more than one piece of paper in your hand. I know that that's kind of weird. We're kind of experimenting with it, but it seems to be working really well in our shop. So just something to consider.
I make planners, and in my Etsy titles, it says, I'm assuming you meant 2024 weekly planner. It says 2025 weekly planner. Is it okay to just update it to 2026, or would changing the title tank my SEO?
No, because nobody's going to... Do you mean that it says 2024 and you want to update it?
Yeah.
Or, you know, vice versa. I mean, eventually you'll need to change it to 2026. My advice is the same, though. After a previous year is already come and gone, it's not going to tank your SEO if nobody's searching for that term. The risk of changing your tags and titles of a listing that's selling well is that you're unknowingly removing something that you might be broad matching for without knowing it. And that's like, you know, if your listing says 2025 weekly planner and you don't realize that you're ranking for 2025 planner and you remove 2025 from your listing altogether, you know, that could obviously cause issues if people were actively searching for 2025 planners. But the thing is, once a year has passed, nobody's going to be searching for the product related to the previous year. So removing a term that nobody's searching for anymore because it's no longer relevant, it's not like we'll ever go back to 2025 or 2024, assuming that that's what you mean. It's totally fine to swap that out. Now, my concern is that if you mean how it's written here, if the listing says 2024 planner, or I'm sorry, 2025 planner, and you want to update it to 26, it's very likely that people, because it's only January, people are still searching for 2025 planners. So hopefully you're not thinking of already introducing 2026 planners. Because
I'm assuming the years were just scoot.
That's what I'm assuming. I wouldn't already start swapping them out for 2026, but I'm assuming you mean that they say 2024 and you want to update them to 2025, in which case that would be fine.
At what point would you delete a listing if it hasn't sold? I've updated the SEO after 2 years and it still hasn't sold a year later.
I would assume that there's something wrong with it other than the SEO. I have a firm belief that everything has the potential to sell eventually.
If there's an audience for it.
Right. So I would stop trying to focus on the SEO. That might not be what the issue is. You know, you might, you might want to consider changing up your thumbnails. In fact, SEO is the very last thing that I typically recommend going in and changing up, simply because you can have a product that is optimized to the max. It could be appearing on page 1, position 1 for the best keyword in the world. But if the customers don't like your thumbnail, or even if it's a good thumbnail, maybe customers just aren't connecting to it, they're still not going to click on it. So I would spend more time evaluating your thumbnail photos, try swapping those out, you know, a new one every 4 weeks or so to see if the performance improves. I would consider evaluating your pricing structure, making sure that everything is very clear, because if somebody feels confused when they're looking through your 10 listing photos, that might be the thing that's preventing them from actually clicking add to cart. There's so many factors that could be influencing, you know, that barrier where, you know, people aren't following through with a purchase. So I would start with the photos, because photos are the thing that's the number one thing. Like, everybody focuses on SEO, but photos are more important than SEO. I've seen listings with terrible SEO do well on Etsy just because the photo is good. And because, you know, customers are buying it, Etsy will rank that product anyway, because Etsy, as long as they're able to figure out like what that product is and the type of people who are buying it, they're still going to rank that product in search, which, you know, that's why the photos are significantly more important. So I would start with that. I would evaluate your pricing. I would go through, make sure you have 10 photos, and make sure that you're, anything that is essential for that purchase to inform the shopper of, you know, what they're getting, how it comes packaged, anything that they need to know.
Make sure the photos look good.
Right. And make sure that information is in your photos, because it's very unlikely that they're going to read your descriptions. So I would start there. And if after, we'll say, you know, maybe by summer, if you're not seeing anything from that listing,
maybe it's time to move on from that list.
Maybe you've designed a product that just doesn't have a lot of demand. Which that happens.
Yeah, it happens. We had that happen many times.
Oh yeah. I've got listings in my shop right now that have never sold.
Every once in a while, you'll be really excited about a project, and business-wise, it's a stinker. It just happens.
Yeah, I've got some great products in my shop that have never sold.
How many times does a band release a song that they think is going to be their banger, and then the song that they hated the most is the radio hit?
Right.
It happens. I tried to donate, but it doesn't show that I did. Unfortunately, we don't control any of that. That's all on YouTube's side.
Yeah,
That's fine. Is it better to have 12 separate listings with theme designs, or one listing with all 12 listed, or should I do both the single listings and one master listing with all the singles in it?
I need more context to answer that question. So 12 separate listing with theme designs, or one listing with all 12. Are all the designs different? I wouldn't list all the designs as variants, if that's what you're saying. Context is everything. Context is the only thing that will accurately answer this question. If it is completely different designs, like let's say that I made couch pillows, right? And the only difference in my couch pillow was the shape. You can either get it a square or, you know, maybe a rectangle, but the design, maybe it's pink flowers, is the same. I would list that as one listing with the variant option where they can pick if they wanted a square or a rectangle shaped pillow. But if it is, you know, a square pillow, but you can get it with pink flowers or purple flowers or blue flowers or green flowers, in that case, because the visual aspect of that is so important, and people kind of need to be able to see, to visualize like the different colored designs. In that case, that's one of those things where I would probably recommend listing them separately, because you're able to more accurately like picture that pillow on your couch, if that makes sense.
They said it's 12 different character classes for a tabletop RPG.
Got it. Character classes.
And it's hard to call on that one, unfortunately, because I could see them all being in one, but I guess it just depends, like, is it part of a collection launch? Is this just a thing you're making on its own? Because if it's just like you're going to upload one listing and then you're not going to upload anything for a couple of weeks, it might be better just to have them all separate. And then, I don't know.
Similar design, but with character class listed I'm challenged with limitations for variations for size, color, class. Okay, so in that case, because you only have what 3 total variant options, let's say that you are doing like, you know, a listing for man, that's a hard one. I would experiment with both. That and here's why. I would do one master listing with everything in it. And you know, obviously that might have limitations with your variants. So if you try to add your variants and it just doesn't work because you have too many variants and you don't feel like customers are going to be able to figure out how to place the order, then, you know, nix the idea of the universal listing. But if possible, and you can do a master listing with all the options and then have individual listings, like if you had like a separate like Paladin listing and you had a separate, you know, I would do that as well, because I don't really know. I would assume that people who are searching for D&D type, you know, products aren't going to be searching class specific.
I disagree.
Really? You think? Well, I know a lot of people are really dedicated to their
Especially
specific class.
when it comes to character sheets, they're going to be searching for the specific character
That's
class.
That's true.
Or something close to it.
That's true. I've known a lot of people that will only play one class no matter what. Like they don't.
Yeah.
So I would experiment with both, because, you know, you never know how your shoppers are going to respond, and this is the best way to actually get data that you can use. And, you know, you might learn something really cool that you could apply in the future. You know, how you know, shoppers for, you know, what I'm going to assume it's more D&D based, how shoppers select, you know, their products, if they're more universally like searching for like the character in general and then filling it out later, or if they have a character in mind already or a class in mind that they want. So, but there's no harm in doing both and seeing which performs better. And then if you want to delete the other listings that aren't performing, that's fine too.
Yeah, experiment.
Exactly.
Do you find that when you add new products or listings that other products seem to get a boost in sales? Thanks.
Yes, the reason is that when you add a new product to your shop, that listing obviously gets a slight boost in search, because Etsy needs to gauge how customers interact with it. They need to be able to collect data in order to rank that product in search and figure out where it will be more permanently placed in search. But you have to think that every time you have a listing out there in the universe, let's say that you're selling, you know, this glittery Starbucks cup. Don't sell Starbucks, they'll come after you. But let's say, for the sake of example, you're selling this glittery Starbucks cup that you've just listed on Etsy. And then maybe because this listing is brand new and somebody clicks on it, they like this cup, but they want to go to your shop and see what else you have. They found this cup, but they're like, I like this one, but I wonder if she has it in pink. So they go to your shop, and then they find the color that they really want, or the version that they really want, or they see something new and exciting that they like, and they end up buying that other product as well. So it's almost like this brand new product was ranking well in search, and it almost became like an ad. Does that make sense? This is like the thing that got them in the shop because it's brand new and it ranked well in search. This is how they found you. This is not what they bought, but finding this listing that was performing well in search did lead them to make a purchase within your shop. And I'm not sure I've never seen any evidence to support this in Etsy's, you know, their head of search has never said anything about it. But I'm going to assume that if somebody finds, you know, this black cup in search, and then they go to your shop based on this listing and they make a purchase, that this listing might get some type of it might affect the quality score. I know that it'll at least affect the quality score of the listing that they ended up buying, but I'm wondering if because this is the listing that they found and it did lead to a purchase.
I don't know how deep their algorithm goes. I don't
Right.
know.
I know that if it was like through ads, it's kind of like it can track. So I'm not sure, but either way, that's probably why, is that you had a good performer in search and it led them to your shop where they bought something else.
I've got her camera pulled up so I can go get her when she gets here.
Okay. Our daughter's getting home early today, 2 hours early, because of the snowstorm that's about to hit.
I do like the idea of, they said, okay, we'll do singles and master listing to see how it rolls. Makes it easier for party orders.
Oh, yeah.
I wish you guys could sell things that were more specific into D&D, so you could have like pre-built parties for specific stories.
Wizards of the Coast will come get you. They are not kind to those who infringe.
3 bards and a mute wizard. Let's see. What do you recommend? Take down holiday listings or just keep them up?
I don't recommend either. It just depends. I leave mine up year round because occasionally they sell and it doesn't hurt my shop if they don't. I don't mind paying the 20 cents to keep them around. I'm only going to get charged every 4 months if they don't sell. So, and that's only 20 cents. Not a big deal to me. And sometimes my holiday listings do sell. So it's completely up to you. I would recommend going into your shop and rearranging. You can go to your storefront, and on the left side of your banner, you'll see a button that says edit shop. Click that, and then on the right side, right above where your listings start, there will be a button that says rearrange. I would just take all of the Christmas listings and drag them to the back of your shop. I haven't done that with my ornaments yet because they're still actively selling right now. I don't know why. I'm assuming that because I sell bookish merch, people are putting them like as bookshelf, decor. They're glass flat ornaments. They might make good sun catchers too. I'm not sure. But yeah, people are still buying them, so I haven't moved them yet. But if they're very Christmassy, move them to the back of your shop.
Just remember, people also do Christmas in July, so...
July is when people start searching for Christmas products.
What is the best way to deal with an extremely rude customer who's being aggressive, name-calling, and rude because their order has been delayed from extreme weather in Cali? Baseball bat.
If they've been aggressive and name-calling, that you do not have to continue. You can
report that.
Yeah, you can report that conversation to Etsy, and Etsy will cut off that They'll
ban them. They'll ban their account and all future accounts.
Yeah, that is not something that you can control. I would immediately
because that's probably a bad review. Like that waiting as soon as they get it. Like you need to report them ASAP.
Yeah, I would immediately reach out to Etsy support. You should also have an option to report the conversation within your chat, I think. But I would try to get a hold of Etsy support, and the moment that they call you a name, you don't have to take it anymore. Like, that's it. Customers, they can get upset, and everybody understands, the frustration of expecting a product and it not arriving on time. Like, we all understand that. But the moment that they start taking that actual aggression out on you, you no longer have to take that. Nobody has to tolerate that.
Nope. I'm getting an error message trying to upload listings to Etsy. Any idea why?
Sometimes that happens. Etsy has crappy days. There are times where I've filled out whole listings and it would not save for no obvious reason. I usually, when I add a new listing to Etsy, and you try to click to publish it, it got dark. You try to click to publish it, and you get that red error message, and it says that, something has occurred and you can't figure out. Anyway, I almost always have to click save twice to get a listing to actually save. Etsy just kind of gets buggy sometimes, unfortunately. All right. Can't believe her bus hasn't come yet.
I can. Next month, I will launch an item very different from what I sell.
Okay.
I usually sell clothing and accessories, and this item is a small home decor that is personally and highly giftable. I was thinking this would be a great item to create launch hype with teasers and etc., but I only have 123 subs on an email list and 84 followers on Instagram. 70% of them are marketing experts for some reason. I wonder if it's even worth putting my time and effort into hype such a tiny audience, or should I skip the launch, hype, marketing, and do it when I have a bigger following?
No, you do it right
anyway.
You do it right away. So there's two parts to that. The first part is that the camera turned off. The first part is that you need the practice. It is better to start hype marketing now when your audience is small. Because if anything, you learn every time. If there is no one listening to you, if you've got one follower, there is still so much that you learn, and you cannot do that without putting it into practice. And it's almost better that you have a small audience, because if you realize that there's a mistake in your process, it is better to have learned, when your audience is small. The second reason is that those few followers that you have, however many you said, 100 something, they don't know. They don't know that you only have 100 something followers. They have no idea. So hype that marketing up, because that shows confidence. And that can cause them to feel confident in you. If they see you advertising with that confidence, they feel more confident. And even if those items don't sell at all, let's say like worst case scenario, you do all this hype and all this marketing and you're so excited and you do everything right and nothing sells, you are still walking away with the experience of doing your first real big crazy, HAA, because you're an HAA student, HAA style launch that will help to carry you with that experience into your next launch. And you're setting expectations for the customers or the followers that you already have so that maybe, when they start watching these launches, they learn what to expect. Is she here? Yeah. Okay, I got the rest of it. So absolutely. One of the things that I always did when I started my first Etsy shop selling my keys was that I acted from the beginning when I only had like 50 followers. I pretended to be way more famous than I was. Like in my brain, everything that I've ever done, including YouTube, I always go all out. And I pretend that there are a million people waiting, even if no one is waiting at all. I always treat it like there's a million people waiting for what I'm about to release or what I'm about to do, because that always ensures that I am creating top tier quality marketing and I am learning from those experiences. And that is the thing that I feel has made everything that I've done as a business owner so successful. Everything that I've done, I have handled the same way. Publishing my book. Amber and Maria and I did, we had a top 15% podcast for a vampire romance series that we read that like blew up overnight. We did that for 2 years. And the reason that we did well with everything that we did was we hyped it up and we built the social media and we, teased releases of everything that we did. So, you learn so much from it. And to me, what you learn is almost more valuable in those first few launches than the money that you make, because, that money, as long as you continue doing the right thing and learning and growing and refining and changing things up, based on what you've learned, you get closer and closer and closer to the perfect process. But you've got to make those initial mistakes first, and you can't do that without putting it into practice. So I hope that helps. Let's see. Can you expand a little on how the master listing nested version thing works? How to best optimize? A master listing would just be a main listing that represents all variants of your listing. For example, let's say that, okay, I used kind of a master listing foundation in my first Etsy shop. So in my first Etsy shop, I created skeleton key necklaces, and many of them you could select your birthstone. Well, there's 12 birthstones, and there are variants for some months, like October has 2 birthstones. And then I had a couple extra stones that they could select if they wanted like a rainbow stone instead, if they didn't want their birthstone. I had about 13, 14, 15. I had about 15 different variants that they could select. Rather than let's say I had a key necklace and it was shaped like a dragon. Rather than listing, a garnet dragon key necklace, and then an amethyst dragon key necklace, and then a peridot dragon key necklace. That would be so many listings in my shop. That would take up so much space in my shop. It was better to, in that instance, combine them all into one master listing where they had the capability from the variants to select their specific stone, because they're going to gravitate towards the stone that, they know exactly what they want, right? When you are buying a birthstone, you know what your birthstone is, or, if you're buying it for a recipient, you know what their birthstone is. You immediately know what you're looking for. So variants and creating like a master listing in an instance like that is a better option, because it's such a small addition to a large product. But when a variant is the whole product, so like in the case of Naughty Gnomes, when the variant is the whole product, because when we're talking about like tabletop gaming and different character classes, like the class of character is the whole product. That's where things get a little bit more complicated because the entire product is changing just rather than just one teeny tiny aspect of that product. So, I mean, your master listing, the main thing is just making sure that you can fit in all of your variations within that listing, because we only have the option for 3 variations. You've got your 2 drop-down menus and then your personalization box that they have to fill out. So as long as you can fit things within that, you know, it's something that you can do, but again, it's really product specific.
Nice jump there. Is anyone else mega frustrated with Facebook and the lack of growth on their platform?
Facebook's always slow. I always recommend having it for your business because you get your Meta Business Suite. You can connect it to your Instagram. You get
good place to send people.
Right. And if someone Googles your business name, your Facebook page is the first thing that's going to pop up because there's so much Google domain authority there, or Google authority. But Facebook, I feel like, is your roadside billboard. You know, there's a potential for people to see it, but a lot of people, you know, aren't even going to pay attention to it. But because you can schedule out content through the Meta Business Suite, and it can, you know, shoot to both Instagram and Facebook, Instagram being the one where you're going to get much better performance just because the algorithm is a little bit more friendly. Because you can dual post, it's almost like there's no reason not to post to Facebook, because within the Meta Business Suite, you just click a box. You know, if you're scheduling a post, you can say, I want this post to go to Facebook and Instagram at the same time.
They said it's been 7 years.
What?
For Facebook.
For Facebook? Yeah. Facebook started going bad when they stopped allowing everybody who liked your page to see your posts. Now, you know, once they started incorporating the option to boost posts and, you know, pay for your reach and things like that, that happened when we were still in California. So over 10 years ago, that's when things really started going downhill for visibility on Facebook. And that's why I always recommend using short form content on Instagram, like Instagram Reels, because it's the only place on the internet aside from Pinterest where you can take a piece of content, and send it off into the universe. You post a reel, a video, and that video is shown to random people who don't already follow you. The only other place, you know, the only other way you can achieve that is by paying for ads. It's the only free way to do that. I mean, Pinterest, again, you know, because pins are evergreen, those tend to cycle a little bit better as long as you optimize them well, keyword optimize them in your, you know, your pin title and your pin description. And I'm assuming your alt text probably contributes. Instagram and TikTok as well. Those are the only places where you can just get organic traffic without paying for it, which is why I'm such a big fan of them.
And who knows where, I mean, again, don't like being political, but Facebook's going down a road right now.
Oh, yeah, it's getting kind of strange. So
yeah, Zuckerberg is doing everything that he can to make his... What?
I blew water out my nose.
To make his platform a toxic cesspool like X is right now. So
yeah,
it's either going to do really good or really bad. However, on the positive side, they tried out those meta bots and they backfired immediately. Like within a couple of hours, they pulled them back because it was so bad that it wasn't worth having it. So we probably won't have to deal with AI profiles by Meta anymore. However, I think the actual platform as a whole is going to be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, you're going to be, I mean, you guys can Google the news on it, but basically they have lessened the restrictions on bullying, which makes me nervous.
No, they didn't lessen the restrictions on bullying. They put specific guidelines in for exactly who you're allowed to bully. Yeah. That is what happened. We're not going to get into the politics of it, but if you're a woman, LGBTQ, or trans, they can kind of do whatever they want and say whatever they want about you now.
Yeah, so. I mean, go read it. It is kind of disturbing, and I do see probably a lot of people moving to platforms like Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm. And Instagram's going to be just as bad because this applies to Instagram too.
Yeah, it's all Meta product. I'm obviously not leaving any of these platforms, but I did, when Blue Sky opened up, I did start a Blue Sky. I'm on all of them. I am on every single social media platform because I like to gauge performance and see what's still performing well. So it'll be interesting seeing, how consumers decide to move. It's not just about us as the businesses, and obviously if you feel like, a platform has moved away from your morals and values and your personal values, there's nothing that says that you have to stay there. But really what we need to keep an eye on as business owners is the more overarching issue, which is, will our customers move somewhere else? Because if the people that we need to appeal to decide that they don't agree with these rules, we've got to be willing to move with them wherever they go. And that's the thing that I most keep track of, is where are the buyers? That's the most important information to me, so that I can share that with you. As of right now, I'm not really seeing as much, there's a lot of people who are really dedicated to Blue Sky. I do like that Blue Sky, they've got a lot of anti-AI type policies, which makes it better for artists. So, if you're one of those people who's concerned about AI and things like that, maybe, just look into it.
Do you guys think Blue Sky or Threads will take off more? I think
Threads
Blue Sky
is owned by Meta.
And Threads is owned by Meta, and they're getting rid of their fact checking, which you guys can be a fan or an enemy of that, but getting rid of the fact checking is ignorant because it didn't block any posts. It just informed people, usually people who were either ignorant or people who just believe anything that they see on the internet, particularly people in the older generations who see things, you know what I mean? So no, it's a statistical fact. It was a safeguard for people who didn't know how to fact check things themselves, or people who just didn't take the time to fact check things, and that creates a lot of infighting between people. And I think it's kind of weird that they're getting rid of it. I mean, I'm not really surprised that they're getting rid of it, but it's gonna make Facebook a little rough. Now, as long as you guys are moderating your own pages and groups and things, I don't think that it's going to be much of a problem for you, unless you're just letting people go into your groups and start posting stuff. You can still ban people. You can still delete posts. You can still moderate your own stuff. You know what I mean? So we'll see. The history or the future of Facebook and social media is anybody's game, especially now that, I don't know if you guys saw, but net neutrality was ultimately completely turned down. So the internet's going to be a weird place over the next few years.
Yeah, we need to we just need to kind of keep our ear to the ground and, make sure that my biggest worry, especially with like the TikTok stuff, is the businesses who have 100% built their platform on one single social media account. That's where the concerning part is. Like, if you've got 1 million TikTok followers and you've got a TikTok shop set up and you make a bunch of money on TikTok, and for some reason, TikTok does get banned. I'm more worried about those who have only built their livelihood on one platform, similar to, if you only sell on Etsy and you run $1 million Etsy shop and, your Etsy shop disappeared. Yeah, that would be a problem. If you're making $1 million on Etsy, you need to also have a website because you need a backup plan. So there's, just making sure that you are prepared and ready in the event that, no matter where you are, whether it be Etsy, whether it be, a social media platform, never have all your eggs in one basket, because you never know. You may be fine with a platform, but if all your customers leave, that could be a problem. So, just be ready. And we're not saying that any of this is going to happen, but don't be one of the individuals who completely gives up, just because there's a shift. Always have a backup plan.
And yeah, Science and Snark just said, because I was actually just getting ready to say that the Supreme Court was hearing the TikTok case today. It looks like they decided to uphold the TikTok ban.
Yeah.
If you really pay attention to what's going on with the TikTok ban, the TikTok is the only organization that's not centralized within the United States. It's the only platform that the U.S. government can't control and censor. So that's most likely why they're getting rid of it. I mean, realistically, I'm not usually one to jump on bandwagons like that, but it's pretty blatant why it's happening. I'm confused about sales tax and how it works. I live in California and have to pay taxes on my Etsy sales tax, even though I got a seller certificate. We're not the people to ask. 100% you should be hiring someone to do your taxes for you.
Yeah.
We've been using Block Advisors for years. It's a subsection of H&R Block. You can pay a little bit of extra, and if you get audited, anything happens, as long as you were honest on your taxes, they'll take 100% accountability and credit for like dealing with that for you.
Etsy deducts the sales tax for the, all the states that require it. So yeah, had to pay taxes on my Etsy sales tax, even though I got a seller's certificate. I'm not entirely sure what you're asking, but I'm probably not qualified to answer it anyways.
No.
Denise, and for anybody who is interested in this, so my virtual assistant, Michelle, she was on our channel probably about 5 years ago doing a tax Q&A. She's thinking about making a tax prep boot camp type thing, just for tax season to get people, ready to know, what you need to do for those who have, maybe never done it before. Obviously, it will be US because she's in the US. But she's wanting to do it's going to be like a small tax boot camp. And I think we're going to have her here on the channel in February to answer tax related questions. And obviously she's going to say like, none of this is legal advice. Like you still need to talk to your local accountant. But if that's something that you guys are interested in, feel free to let me know because we've been going back and forth. She's a super smart lady. She's also the editor for my book. And I think that, if she decides to actually go through with this and make a little tax boot camp type thing, I mean, that would be absolutely awesome.
What do you reckon is a good percent to hit for the ad revenue versus ad spend? My sales from ads last year is about $8,000 and the ad spend was about $3,000.
Well, that completely depends on how much you're paying for supplies and product. There's no particular golden percentage. It just depends on your objective. And obviously you need to factor in your product. If you're POD, you need to factor in your margins. You need to factor in your shipping. You need to factor in things like your time creating the product. If you're making them by hand and they take you 20 hours a piece to make, then obviously, you can't just be breaking even on those products because then you're not paying yourself for your time. So again, this is another one where context is everything. A lot of people are willing to take a slight hit on their profit margins in order to pay for ads to help boost visibility temporarily on a listing, so that they can accumulate some initial sales and then, back off on those ads while still benefiting from the higher listing quality scores and good reviews that they received while that listing was being advertised. So really it just depends on your objectives, like I said, and your product cost, because the question is, are you profitable? At the end of the day,
that was a 5K profit.
Right. Are you profitable and are you happy with your profit? Well, after supply cost and time paying yourself.
Mm-hmm. And Emily had said, I'm assuming you were referring to the color accuracy. What about IMAX? It's going to depend on the year, the model. I can't tell you that off the top of my head. I'm revamping my badge reels designs to accommodate switchable troopers. How do I list badge reels themselves, as I only offer slide and alligator clip styles? I can't see making a shop section.
Badge reels. Okay. How do I list the badge reels themselves? You're wanting to list them by themselves without the toppers? Linda, feel free to, this one, yes, it is.
Oh.
Linda, feel free, because this one I feel like I need to add, I need to see more, because I know exactly what you make. I know what you're talking about. This might be one where you want to tag me in the Facebook group and let me take a look at the products, because I want to make sure that I'm answering your question accurately.
Is following trends like Castlecore or Medieval Core worth it? If they're in the industry that you're within, yes.
It could be. I would make sure that, like he said, it needs to fit your overall, because you're more of like fantasy type jewelry. I think that you could probably do quite a bit with it.
How soon should I start adding and advertising new products for a specific occasion like Mother's Day, if my standard delivery to the US can take some time, even a few weeks?
So typically you want to start 4 months in advance for holidays and popular seasons. That's always the recommended, because obviously the algorithm takes a little bit of time. And if your shipping time is going to be, quite a while, I mean, you might even want to add an extra week on top of that, or 2, but 4 months is the standard. You want to list 4 months ahead of popular seasons. By the way, guys, down below in the video description, we just released our 2025 marketing calendars, which actually tell you when you should start preparing for all the holidays. It'll tell you like on the calendar, like, hey, if you haven't started making Mother's Day products, like now's the time to get those listed. Or, I've even got one in there for Mother's Day where it says, Mother's Day in the UK is coming up. So get your products listed now if you want to appeal to UK shoppers and US shoppers, because UK Mother's Day is way before US Mother's Day. But those are completely free. It's a free PDF, and that is down in the video description. So be sure to grab those because that really answers your question. What we got?
I've been selling print on demand on Etsy for 8 months. My prices are below average. I have 16 sales and 46 abandoned carts. What do you think the problem is here? Okay, 2 things. For one, not specific to you, but just as we're going through the list, any of these, I sell this, my sales have tanked, what can I do? We can't answer that question for you, so I'll just be skipping questions like that. You were specific on yours, though, with your prices being below average. Pricing below average is not an effective sales strategy to sell more. For the majority of products, now POD might be a little bit different. I can't speak to POD, but selling below average prices does not automatically mean, cool, I'm getting a deal. For a lot of people, that means, what's wrong with it? Why is this cheaper than everybody else's? I'm going to go to the one that's a little bit more expensive because I'm expecting a slightly higher quality.
Yeah, I'm POD, and my sweatshirts are almost $50 each, and they're some of my best sellers. My t-shirts are around $30 to $40. My hooded blankets are $80. And they sell relatively well. Don't compete at the bottom, because when I am buying a t-shirt on Etsy, if I see one that's listed at a low cost, I assume, oh, this is a crappy material. This is going to be, some thin or scratchy material. And I always skip over the cheap listings when I'm buying things like clothing from a POD shop. Do not compete at the bottom of the barrel. In fact, a lot of the POD sellers who increase their prices tend to see better sales from that. So, don't compete at the bottom.
When I buy something, I get a message a day or so later asking me to leave a review. I wonder if my listings are also doing that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what you're asking. I figured that's what it was, Kate. Yes. Unfortunately, Etsy's automated system asks, for reviews right when the listing is expected to arrive.
And digital products, it's instant, which is kind of silly. 2 days, I think, would be more appropriate. I don't know why they do instant.
I think
2 days after, that's enough time to get something and implement it or use it if it's a physical product. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people that'll leave like a 1-star review that says, I haven't even used it yet. And I'm like,
yeah, that's not a good... 2 days, I think, there's no psychology behind what I'm saying, but that to me makes the most sense.
Right. Unfortunately, you can't change what Etsy does, you know.
What's a tactful way to ask for a hopefully positive review? I feel like I'm missing out on lots of reviews because I'm not asking for them. Well, we have just a thing for that.
Yeah, Hillary, head over to alphasugar.com.
ALPHA.
ALPHA, sugar, SUGAR.com. I've got my swipe files, my customer service swipe files. Basically, they hit the 4 points of contact of interaction that Etsy encourages us to have with our Etsy shoppers. We have been utilizing these for over 10 years, and we have been advertising them to our alphas for over 7 years. They have been verified by Etsy, and we also have been doing yearly surveys of 1,000 Etsy buyers over at eRank to make sure that they all still say that these points of contact are important to them. And so we have data to support them. Basically, these are follow-up messages that you send throughout the order process. Sale, so you let them know that you have received their order and you're about to start working on it for them. Ship, you let them know when their order has shipped and possibly an estimated arrival, or if, right now there's potential delays, just letting them know ahead of time that there might be slight delays due to weather. Arrive, that's where you say, hey, I noticed, that your order arrived. I just wanted to make sure that it has arrived safely. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a review. You can do that by doing this. It's a tactful way to ask for a review, but it's more of a by the way, if you have time, if you like your purchase, this is how you leave a review. You're not saying, can you leave a review? You're saying this is how you leave a review. Because a lot of buyers, it's not that they don't want to leave a review. They're just not sure how. And then the fourth message is review. And, it's kind of optional. A lot of people don't feel comfortable with this one now that you have the ability to respond directly to reviews on Etsy. So it's not necessary if you don't want to, but, it is an option to message them after they leave a review and thank them for that review. And this is often a time when sellers will also say, you know, if you ever decide to purchase from us again, here is an extra coupon for, you know, maybe 25% off on your next purchase. Thanks so much for your business. You know, have a nice day or whatever. But anyway, I have templates though that basically, you know, hit these 4 points of contact, and you can customize them to fit your brand voice. Just alphasugar.com. It's another free PDF that we've been giving that one away for.
It's probably our most popular freebie. I mean, it was one of your first freebies.
Yeah.
And it's one of the ones that we know works perfectly well.
I know I have
awesome.
I've got people constantly who say that, you know, oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't bug customers. And I'm like, they work though.
Which is funny because Etsy also provides you a way to send messages to customers after a purchase now. And they recommend you message customers once it arrives.
Yeah, it's there's a reason that we make sure that we check everything. We checked with Etsy. We've run multiple data surveys of 1,000 buyers. We do that once or twice a year over at eRank to make sure that, you know, everybody still matches up. My suggestion has always just been, you know, if you're skeptical, try it out. We've never had anything bad. You know, nobody's ever reported a customer getting ticked off. Now, if that customer is also a seller, which you can see when they place an order, that might be an occasion where you skip that simply because, you know, you don't want to mess up their response rates and upset them. That's the only occasion when we don't utilize swipe files, is when the customer is also a seller.
SA124 said, by the way, I'm in Denmark. Says I cannot donate when pressing the heart. Yeah, not all countries can donate.
That's odd.
I don't know if Denmark is one of the. I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize that
there are some countries that can't donate, but I didn't think Denmark was one of them. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sorry. Can you group listings by a theme? Like I have a slogan or design that I put on a shirt, a blanket, and a coffee mug. If I list it together, is that 3 separate listings or one?
I would list those separately because those are 3 different items with 3 different price points.
Yeah, you're not selling the design, you're selling the product with the design on it.
Yeah, that would be 3 separate listings because those are 3 entirely different items. Now, if it was, you know, you're putting it on a t-shirt, but you offer the t-shirt in red, green, and blue, then I would put those 3 color options into one listing.
Which is kind of what you just answered, Lewis, is I have
3 different color options.
I have 3 different color items. Should I create a different listings with each thumbnail to feature each color option? Well,
yours are the noodle boards though, right? So yours are a big handmade wooden product. Those I would list separately. Yes. I would list here's what I would do. Let's say that you have 3 types of wood. Let's see, you know, you have like a white, a dark, and a light, you know, light brown. I would list them separately, but make sure that the variants offer the option for all of them. So if you've got the white wood option, you know, use that as the thumbnail, but offer the we'll say like a light wood and a medium colored wood. Mm-hmm. You know, have those options available within that listing, but all the photos, you know, the main listing photo is the white one. And then, you know, have one for the darker wood, but they can still buy the light one within there. So they're all listed separately, but the thumbnail representing them, because yours are, you know, large wood products. This is where, again, there's no one size fits all solution to a lot of these questions because it really depends on what the product is. When it comes to a handmade woodworked item, you know what I mean? That's a little bit different because somebody is likely going to be searching specific to their home and motif. Whereas with a t-shirt, it's like, you know, it's a little bit different because people are typically just searching for the shirt and then they're more apt to select the exact color of the shirt that they want.
Yeah, they said they can't donate in their country.
Aw. Well, thank you for trying. We do appreciate it.
I'm sure, I mean, because it's just for the California wildfire recovery stuff, I'm sure if you Googled it, there are probably some you can donate to directly from your country without having to go through us if you want to donate to it.
It's probably some limitation through YouTube.
It probably is. Usually tax codes or something specific.
We do appreciate you for trying, though.
If I start another store on Etsy, is it best to start a new account or to link my current account? I've seen people have 2 shops in one account, banned if they do that, but managing 2 might be rough.
You have to have you have to have a separate email and everything. You can't I
don't think so.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, do you?
Yep. You have to have a separate email and everything. What do you mean? You can't link it to your current account. There's no way to do that. Every shop is its own
I thought so. I've been to people's profiles. No?
No.
Maybe I'm just thinking that.
It has to be its own entity. Now, the one thing that you are supposed to do is disclose in your actual like seller bio that you have more than one shop. So, you know, if you've got shop A and shop B, in the shop A personal profile, you know, where you click on your shop owner name and it takes you to like, you know, your favorites and things like that. In that little personal bio, you're supposed to put like also the owner of shop B. And then in shop B's little bio, you need to say also the owner of shop A, so that they're linked to each other. That's technically in Etsy's policies. I don't know if they enforce that, but it's just one of those weird things that they've always had a rule about. But yeah, there's no way to link shops together, unfortunately. You've got to have separate accounts for everything.
Is adding the new required GPSR info, I'm in the EU, at the end of each description, will that mess up the listing's SEO?
No.
I mean, should we change? So descriptions play into SEO, but are not what the SEO realistically is derived from. So as far as we understand, the description is going to be more for like delimiting exactly what
context.
Yeah, context about the listing. So if you have a silver necklace and the person wants to know is the gem on it red or blue or whatever, it will use the description to kind of better personalize search for someone searching for your listing. So realistically, based on what Etsy says the descriptions are used for, it shouldn't affect your SEO enough for it to matter with you putting the GPSR stuff. And even if it does, it's better to have it in there and not get banned than to, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew Stanton, Etsy's head of search, basically said that descriptions are not used for keyword matching. So your tags and titles are used for keyword matching. That's where you want to make sure that the keywords in the tags and titles match as closely as you can to what Etsy shoppers are searching for. Descriptions are used more to decide if a specific customer connects with like the style and, you know, the maybe color, like he said, of that product. So the example that I always use is, let's say that Betty specifically, you know, supports Black-owned businesses. Let's say that maybe in February, Betty, you know, for Black History Month, Betty wants to shop from Black-owned businesses.
Sure.
Betty is, you know, she has had a history on Etsy of shopping from Black-owned businesses. And Etsy notices that. They notice that in her as a shopper. They notice that behavior about her, that she, you know, has this preference. And let's say that Julie is a Black-owned business and she doesn't have anything about that in her title or tag. She just makes, you know, nice wall art or something. But she just happens to have something about, you know, being a Black-owned business in her product description. Betty doesn't need to specifically be searching for, you know, a product made by a Black-owned business. Maybe she was just searching for wall art. If Julie, you know, has the fact that she's a Black-owned business listed, you know, just somewhere in her description, you know, something subtle in there like a PS, because Etsy has noticed this behavior about Betty, that this is the type of product that Betty in the past has been interested in, because that context is there, they might be more likely to recommend Julie's product to Betty, even if Betty wasn't specifically searching in that instance for a Black-owned business. The same goes with color. If Betty was searching for, you know, a piece of wall art and Etsy's noticed that Betty primarily buys items that are blue, even if Betty did not specify, I want a blue piece of wall art, Betty might be more likely to see more blue listings if blue was listed in the description, because they're using that description for more behavioral based matching, as opposed to, you know, trying to match keywords exactly like they would with the tags and titles. So think of it as, you know, your first layer is your title. Like that's the first layer of importance, and then your tags, and then your attributes, which are, you know, those little drop down menus that you fill out, you know, who made it, I did, what's the style, what's the materials, what's the color, what's the, you know, yada, yada. And then your description would, you know, be kind of the last layer of Etsy trying to figure out exactly what it is that you're selling and who it's for.
Weird.
All right.
I keep getting quote unquote blurry photos notes from Etsy. How can I tell if my photos are truly sharp? I use an iPhone.
Well, I mean, if Etsy's telling you that they're blurry, then they're probably blurry. It sounds like you need to get into your iPhone settings and play around with your overall photo resolution, which I believe that Christina Nicole might have videos on. If you go to her channel by Christina with a K, Nicole, she might be able to help you out, or tag her in our Facebook group. She's very active in the alpha group. But it just sounds like maybe a setting in your phone.
Could be. You could also be moving a lot while you take your photos, in which you could get yourself a small phone tripod and a Bluetooth clicker.
And obviously, I know that this sounds really, really basic, and it sounds silly, but a lot of the times, all you need to do is get yourself one of these little glasses wipes.
Give it a little wappy wipe.
Even if it looks clean.
Give it a little wappy wipe.
You would not believe how many times I take photos and I don't realize that my lens had a fingerprint on it.
If that don't work, get yourself a 90% isopropyl alcohol wipe or alcohol. Don't use a paper towel. They're covered in fuzzies. And give it a little clean, and then dry it off immediately after so you don't damage any anti-glare that's on there.
But if Etsy is saying it's probably more of an upload resolution
it's
issue.
Probably resolution. And if you've got a really, really old iPhone, then it might be time to upgrade to one that has a better resolution. Especially since they're getting ready to, what generation is it? Somebody here is an Apple freak and will know. They're getting ready to discontinue security support for iPhones older than a specific generation, and I don't remember what it is. I feel like it's 11th or 12th gen. I could be wrong. For daily posts, is it best to feature one item to catch the eye or multiple items to get more traffic?
For social media?
Social media.
A combination. I like to do product showcases where I showcase one, item and give it its little spot in the starlight. But then I also, one of the best performing posts from my first business for my pendants was I would, go outside, or, I would make sure that there was a pretty background. Sometimes it would be the grass or the snow, kind of out of focus in the background. But I would just lay my necklaces, like my key necklaces, across my hand and have like a handful of a couple of them. And I would just kind of, snap a picture with the pretty background kind of blurred and, the keys laying in my hand. And for some reason, those performed so well. So there's no saying what's going to perform best for you, but a combination of both, showcasing products that are similar and the variety, but then also giving, specific products their time in the spotlight is very important.
Naughty Gnome T said, whiskey is the wrong alcohol to clean your phone with. Never use anything other than isopropyl alcohol to clean your phone screens and cameras. The alcohol is made with sugar, and sugar leaves a film on everything.
Tasty.
Tasty. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I have a Facebook group. I'm not sure how to fully utilize it. I post my products and do giveaways. Do you have a video on how to utilize groups best?
I haven't done a Facebook group video in a while, but typically your group, you don't just want to focus it around your products. You almost want to build a community around your niche and then, benefit from the existing community to kind of sprinkle your products in. So Amber Marie is a fantastic example of this. She has a Facebook group called the Dog Nerd Studio where people can talk about their very specific dog breeds and, post pictures of their cute dogs and things like that. But she also does pet portraits, or if she needs like a model call because she draws, dogs in different poses, she'll say, hey, I need a picture. Does anybody have a white poodle, and could you get a picture of it, jumping in the air? I need specifically a white poodle jumping in the air. So, the community will all get together and try to get photos of their white poodles jumping in the air. So Amber will have a good model to draw for, upcoming white poodle themed product lines. So it's almost a place for people to show off their pets and talk about their pets. But then Amber is also able to market her products and get her customers involved in the creation of her products. So this is why, again, having a niche is so important, because you need to have more to your group than just the sell. Otherwise, people get kind of fatigued by that.
Also, I wanted to say on the topic, because I don't think I've ever said it on stream, on the topic of cleaning electronics, never clean your computer monitors, usually TVs as well, using alcohol, Windex, or really the screen cleaners that you get. Most of them contain stuff that will actually, most monitors nowadays come with anti-glare And alcohol, window cleaner, and a lot of the screen cleaners will destroy the anti-glare, and sometimes they can eat the coating on the outside of it. It's best to get distilled water. If you can, get deionized water and a brand new, clean, never been used cloth. Water on the cloth, wipe dry. That's the best way to clean stuff. I don't know. It's been eating at me.
Sticky.
Oh, I use a college layout.
Collage.
I don't know why I said college.
We're tired.
Etsy informed me going into the holiday that I had to change 65 photos. Why do they think this is necessary?
Okay, two things. They did not tell you that you have to change 65 photos.
But that you should.
They are recommending that you change 65 photos because through their data that they've collected over millions and millions of, customers, and they have, data to support this based on shopper behavior, they have concluded that based on data that is real, being able to monitor how shoppers behave, that collage photos do not perform as well in most contexts as well as other types of photos. If your listings are selling, do not change them despite what Etsy says. They are not saying that they're not going to rank you in search. They're not saying that they're going to penalize you. They're not saying that you have to change those photos. What they're saying is that based on our data, we have noticed that listings like these tend to not perform very well. So if you are not happy with your sales number, you might want to consider changing them. That is all that Etsy is saying. If you are not making sales, it might be a good idea to take this advice to heart. Because, Etsy is giving us this advice based on how they have noticed millions and millions and millions of shoppers behaving on their platform. They're not trying to bully us or create extra work for us. They're trying to help us by giving us advice based on data that they have. Now, not all contexts are going to work, though. There are, times when a collage photo, I've seen examples where a collage photo is necessary to accurately display a product. And there are plenty of sellers who have phenomenal sales who have to utilize these collage styles. I wish I could give you guys an example of one, but I can't really think of anything where it's necessary. But I have seen, sellers who do really well with them. If you're doing well, again, it's not a requirement. You're not being penalized. You don't have to change anything. I know that page looks really threatening, but Etsy's just trying to help you. They're just making suggestions. Mm-hmm. If you're not making sales, might be worth testing, experimenting, seeing if Etsy's advice really is something that you should be taking to heart, even if it does create a little extra work. But the good thing is there's no deadline. You don't have to rush and do it, by a certain time. These are just suggestions that are meant to help you.
Do you need 10 images for a listing? I'm a new seller and looking to keep images related to the product. I see some sellers have repeat images in their listing, but is that a bad thing to do?
Yes, because there's no image counting algorithm. The number of photos that you have absolutely play no part in how you rank. But your customers, every single photo that they look at, that keeps them on that listing page for longer. And your objective as a seller should be to keep them there as long as possible, contemplating that purchase. The longer that they spend looking through all of those photos and spending time on that listing page, the more, the probability increases that they're going to click add to cart, which is what you want. So if you are just adding the exact same image over and over, what is that telling the customer? First of all, it's telling me that the customer doesn't know how Etsy works, and that's going to turn me off. But second, that's going to tell me that seller is wasting my time. They are just showing me the same junk photo over and over. Like, I already saw it. Tell me something I don't know. So you don't need, there's nothing that says you have to have all 10 photos, but you should try to get as many as possible. And they don't all need to be of your product. Obviously, get angles of your product, front, back, a photo to demonstrate scale. I usually recommend a precise unit of measure. So trying to get like a ruler or a yardstick to show how many inches, the product is. And then taking another photo with a more tangible unit of measure, such as, holding it in your hand. People know, how big a hand is. Or having a coin sitting beside it. If it's like a piece of jewelry, most people know, the standard size of like a US quarter. They can usually, figure it out. Or if it's a little larger, maybe a blank pop can, just to give an idea of the scale. You can actually buy pop cans with no label on them. They're just silver. That way people have an idea of how big it is. And then the rest of the listing photos, you can put, care instructions, how the order comes packaged, things that customers need to know. For my POD shop, I have one that says that, we do not ship your products. I say something like, Michelle and I love designing awesome bookish merch for you. However, we do not know how to make t-shirts. So we trust the t-shirt printing to the experts or an expert third party, something like that. So there's always things that you can do, but basically anything that the customer needs to know in order to make that purchase, it's very unlikely that they're going to read your product description, just because Etsy hides our description. Make sure that anything that they need to know, you put in text on a photograph within your listing.
If you set up a listing with variants, do you have separate SEO for the different variants, or can you only get that with a separate listing?
Only with a separate listing.
Yeah, only with a separate listing.
Yep.
We've answered that. Marcella, we've answered that question twice in the stream already.
Yeah, feel free to watch the replay. We've answered it a couple times.
Because new listings have a slight boost, would you also advertise the new listing right away or wait a certain amount of time before advertising that listing? I've always been more of a fan of advertising listings that are already performing.
Yeah, it's a proof of concept. I always talk about betting on your winning racehorses. For everybody who's new, because I know we've had a lot of new subscribers over the last few months. If you go to a horse race and you're trying to decide which horse to bet on, you're going up to the board and you're looking at all the different horses. Are you going to put all your money on a horse that has never won a race before? A brand new horse, he's brand new to racing and he's never won before. No, because you're probably not going to win your money back, right? You're going to bet your money on a horse that is known for winning races and that has won a lot of races in the past, because that horse is more likely to help you make a return on your investment. So when you're deciding on listings to put advertising money behind, you pick your winning race horses, because if they're already performing well, that tells you a lot of things. It tells you that customers want that item. It tells you that your SEO is good, and it tells you that your photos are probably good. If you put ad money behind a product that already does well, what you're doing is you're taking your best item that people already love and you're showing it to as many people as possible. You are taking it, and you are winning races with that product. So yes, like Mark said, putting the money behind your best sellers is typically the best. If you want to put money behind a product that's never sold, that's fine. It's okay to gamble, on the underdog, but don't bet the whole house, and do so with the understanding that there's only like a 50-50 shot that you're going to, see any positive from it, because you don't know. You don't know how that listing is going to perform. But if you want the surefire return on investment, put the money behind the items that are already selling.
What are your thoughts on Etsy ads for a shop that doesn't make very many sales? Generally, I only break even, or sometimes I don't get any sales from it. They either work or they don't. Yeah,
that tells me that there might be a bigger issue there. You might want to take one of the items that is selling if you want to experiment. If you have an item that has sold at all, you could attempt to experiment with ads. Again, bet on what would be your winning racehorse in that case. But there might be a bigger problem there. If your photos aren't top tier, then it doesn't matter if they're being advertised to a bunch of buyers. What you need is for those buyers to buy the item. So if the photos aren't great, that could potentially sabotage your whole ad campaign. If the SEO is good or isn't good, then Etsy isn't going to know who to show the ads to. An ad is only going to perform if all the other pieces are already in place. The good photos, the good SEO, a good pricing structure, and, a positive history, which, past sales, that obviously helps as well. So if you really are dead set on doing ads, pick something that has sold and that customers have been happy with in the past. That way you at least have a proof of concept. But if you're genuinely not selling anything, ads aren't something that's going to save you, if that makes sense. I would really work on trying to figure out why those listings aren't selling, because ads likely aren't going to help you very much if there's an underlying issue that you're not aware of.
Which products should be featured? At the moment, I pin my patterns that are already quite popular and bring me the highest profit at the same time, or should I boost unpopular products?
Do you mean featured like at the top of your shop in those four slots? That's completely up to you. I put my best sellers up there, or sometimes if I release something new that I'm really excited about, I pin it to the top of my shop. But it's totally up to you. You could go in and change them up every day if you wanted to. All it does is make sure that those listings are the first 4 that you see in your shop.
Always experiment. Yeah. Doesn't hurt to experiment.
Yeah, I put the products up there that I like, the ones that I think are the coolest.
How do we know what we don't know regarding SEO?
Isn't that the question?
Right. My views have plummeted, but they've never been very high. I've gone through your SEO offerings and E-Rank. I feel like I'm missing something.
When did they plummet? Because obviously if they plummeted, just in the last few weeks, well, we're post-Christmas. Nobody's Christmas shopping. So that makes sense. It's all about, thinking about what traffic patterns are like. Are you doing as much shopping as you were in November and December? Probably not. A lot of the times it's not anything that you've, done wrong. There are seasons on Etsy that are slower. January, pretty slow on Etsy. February, we tend to see a little bit of an uptick with people kind of Valentine's Day shopping. We tend to see an uptick for Mother's Day and Father's Day. But for the most part, spring and summer on Etsy, especially summer, are very slow. And then, things start to build up starting around August and September because people start thinking about the holidays and decorating for fall and Halloween, and they start getting a little bit looser with their spending and more willing to spend money. So there's no way for me to say, what the issue could be. What I will say is that if you're experiencing a stall just as of the last few weeks, it's very normal. So is my shop. I'm still selling occasionally, but it's not like it was like, November, December.
I just finished a 50-piece order for an event planner. If she comes back in the future for client orders, will be fee avoidance if I take it off Etsy as a wholesale order. Okay, first of all, disclaimer, not legal advice if Etsy decides to do the alternate. If you coordinate that through Etsy, yes. If you're coordinating off of Etsy, as in you never told them to talk to you off of Etsy, they came to because you put a card or they joined your email list or whatever, then by definition, no. But if you've ever talked on Etsy about pushing them off of Etsy, then it could be. Can't really say much more than that.
I would, if this was me, because you've just did that order, have you shipped it yet? If so, make sure that you put something in there about like for future wholesale orders, like email me here. If they contact you for another order, this is not legal advice. I'm not telling you to do the bad thing. I would get their email from their order and maybe drop them an email simply because they're an interested customer. They're somebody that is clearly wanting to buy from you. They're a past customer. Normally, you don't want to take their email address and message them off platform. But because there's already a relationship and, they clearly want to do like an ongoing thing, I would try to reach out to them via email if they inquire again. That way there's no paper trail on Etsy, that where you've said, email me for wholesale prices, because obviously then Etsy could get upset.
I got a 2-star this last Christmas due to the post office being 1 day late. The estimation thing Etsy has is anger inducing. It is. Yeah. We always add 10 days.
Yeah, it's a pain.
At a minimum.
It's a pain in the butt.
If I get the error page, I'm talking about for new listings. I just open a new tab and copy and paste. Yeah, if opening a new tab doesn't work, close it, clear your cookies, do all that stuff, and then come back to it. If not, try a different browser. My listing was deactivated because it says Mom Life. Etsy says it's trademarked. I got the file on Creative Fabrica, which is a paid membership licensed designer's website. It makes no sense to me.
Hey, Haiti, let me tell you, we've had 2 students get sued for using designs that they got on Creative Fabrica. And I met with Creative Fabrica's CEO over this. I thought that I was helping to resolve the issue. And, I put him in contact with the 2 students who were sued. And the most that he was willing to do for them was refund 1 month of their Creative Fabrica when one of them paid. How much did she pay?
It was a lot.
Yeah, because she also had to pay for the legal fees and stuff because to speak to a lawyer. One, I think, had to pay $600, and the other one had to pay over $1,000 because of a design that she assumed she could use on Creative Fabrica, but the vendor through Creative Fabrica had stolen the design from an artist, and the artist sued these two students.
I hate to say it, but Creative Fabrica is not necessarily a secure, just like anything else where you get art that's free or purchased, people steal it. It happens. You have to be very careful. You can, even if you dig, there's Disney stuff on Canva. Like,
yeah. So Creative Fabrica, all I can say is that it's good that, the listing got deactivated and you didn't get sued for several $1,000s.
yeah, you got a best case scenario there.
I'm telling you guys this. I've thought about making a video about this whole Creative Fabrica situation because it happened in April, I think. It's been a while. But I don't want them to try to sue me. I don't know what I can.
Stating fact, they can't sue you for stating a fact, something that happened. Only if you say that, Creative Fabrica is not a reliable platform. Creative Fabrica, realistically, when upheld by the terms on Creative Fabrica, is a realistically good platform to use. However, like every other platform, they're not the best at monitoring what goes on, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. So.
Yep, and they were not, they did not have, basically what my student said was that the over hour-long meeting that she was in with their CEO, I'm assuming it was their CEO, the amount that she was refunded for her month, subscription wasn't even enough to cover the time that she sat in that meeting if she was charging an hourly rate.
I agree with that too.
So I am not a fan of Creative Fabrica at all.
No, I mean,
the fact that
you guys know my opinions about just buying designs and slapping them on a shirt. I'm not even going to go into that. Technically, you have to alter them. You can't technically take a design from Creative Fabrica and slap them on a shirt without altering them anyway. That it goes against Etsy's policies to begin with.
Yeah.
And Taddy Tiara said, I think a lot of the content on Creative Fabrica would require an AI disclosure on Etsy as well. I agree with that. If you're going to buy stuff on Creative Fabrica, for one, make sure you're altering it because that's Etsy's terms. You have to do that. And always trademark check terms. I mean, that baseline, this now, but I mean, realistically, baseline, you should always check that if you're putting text on a piece of clothing or whatever, make sure that doesn't have a trademark. People have trademarked the most asinine things over the last few years that have gone through, and they get taken down after a couple of years when enough people complain, but a lot of this stupid stuff gets done.
Somebody had said, is there any way to know which seller it was? Here's the thing, there's so many sellers that are probably doing it that even
and don't dox people here anyway.
Yeah, I don't shout out things like that just because, like he said, it can lead to doxing and bullying and things like that, but or us getting sued for shouting something out publicly like that. But be wary. I've had a very sour taste in my mouth about Creative Fabrica ever since that happened. And yeah, Mabel DeWoodle said over $1,000. Yeah, it was a lot of money. And this seller did not have, and her shop got shut down. Thankfully, she got her shop back because after she paid the astronomical amount of money, the person who had filed the IP report, retracted it. But I was so ticked off that I sat in that meeting with him, and he seemed like so sympathetic of the situation and willing to fix it, and then just didn't. Yeah, I was ticked. If I'm ticked at a company, like I will never recommend them again. Like if they've treated my people wrong, I will never ever say nice things about them. And that they are one that they did these two ladies dirty.
There was one that I wanted to cover and I don't know where it's at. And just for future reference, copying and pasting your question 15 times in the future will get you a permanent ban, Marcella.
Yeah, please don't fill the chat with your question.
We answer them in the order in which they come in when we have the ability to do so.
Yeah, we do. Is it the same one that we had answered previously?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we answered that one a couple times.
There was one that I did want to get. What will happen with Lemonade and CapCut? We don't know, but it sounds like as of right now, the TikTok ban is being upheld. So they'll likely get banned as well.
Oh, the CapCut thing sucks. I love CapCut.
Realistically, they were worried about the security with TikTok. Well, I'm not going to get into that. Not going to get into that. Everything about the TikTok ban was a lie.
Yeah,
It was politically driven. It's the only company that's ran out of China. Everybody is scared of China, but nobody here is important enough for China's tracking to make any difference whatsoever unless you work for the government. And then you should have the intelligence to not use it at that point. I don't know. People are this.
Marc's military intelligence career causes him to analyze things like this at a degree that
I get sick of tech being pushed into the background because people who have no business regulating technology, who know nothing about technology, fueled by people who know nothing about technology, like to get what they want.
Yeah, when it comes to cybersecurity and things like that, Marc, he spends a lot of time like researching the ins and outs just because it was his entire career field when he was in the military. So he sits and just reads everything when it comes to stuff like this.
What's your prediction for this year on Etsy? Is it going to be better or worse? Unfortunately, we can't really answer that.
Yeah, I think that, obviously there's going to be industries that do better. There's going to be industries that do worse. I will say that this whole business model that a lot of coaches were promoting of list as many POD designs as possible, it is failing. And we have so many sellers who joined Handmade Alpha Academy with that like sell everything, millions of POD designs mentality, who are shifting into more niche focuses, who are finally making sales. So I think that this year, understanding your audience, identifying your target audience, building up a social media following, building a brand, not just an Etsy shop, but making sure that you have a brand. These are things that have always been important, but I think that they're going to be more important this year than ever before, simply because it's going to take a lot of oomph to get people to spend money when they don't have a lot of money to spend. And the best way to do that is to build trust, build relationships, and build human connections. I think that that's something that we just, as people, we're starting to lose. And, with AI and, sour attitudes online, I'm sure that you guys have noticed it recently, lots of sour attitudes online. It's harder than ever to build genuine connections with people. And I miss that. I miss a world where we could connect with other human beings. And I do feel like the businesses that do really, really well are the ones who are building connections and creating a brand that real human beings can relate to on some level, by pursuing a niche that they're passionate about and that they love. My brand, that's what, my Etsy shop is all about. I read fantasy books. I work with authors. We get official licensing to make products for them. We pay commissions to these authors. We are in the authors' communities in their Facebook groups, their official Facebook groups, and we get to advertise our products in those groups for people who also share a love of these same books. And then they come to our shop and they buy. And anybody who comes to our shop knows that we've read the same books as them and we love these books too. And, we've built a community. We've built a similar interest where the customers, they look at our products and they know that we love this thing as much as they love this thing, or we love this character as much as they love this character. So, I think that there are plenty of industries that are going to do really well, but I think that, the days of saying, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I wonder what I'm going to sell. Well, this is trendy right now. I'll sell a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. I think that is going to begin spiraling down. And I think that all these, YouTubers who talk about like, oh, it's easy money, list 6,000 t-shirts, random creative fabrica designs. That mindset is going to go away this year. But guys, I think we are at the end.
Yeah, we're at the end.
I got a potty.
Before I get spicier.
Thank you so much for hanging out. Mr. Moore, how much did we raise?
$5.
No, we raised more than that. I don't think we had a single only $5 donation.
No, we didn't. Oh, we did. We had one in the very beginning.
Yeah, there were a couple.
$405. Guys, if you can, please donate. They help underrepresented groups in California during this mass crisis. If you guys aren't aware, if you guys are in Europe, California is friggin' screwed.
Hollywood is on fire.
Yeah,
It
like
is-
the whole bottom half of California there is on fire, and also the fire hydrants have no water. So I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's
Poor
so
planning.
miserably terrible.
Yes. Tons of our students have had to evacuate. One of our managers over at E-Rank had to evacuate. Poor Craig.
Yeah, it's bad. So if you guys have $5-10 you can donate. They need it a lot more than we do. There's a lot of people that are going to be displaced. The millionaires don't need the money. The upper middle class people out there don't need the money. But the underrepresented groups, the homeless folk and people that have trouble getting around, they do need the help. And that's what these guys help
Yes,
with.
they're
So,
focusing on elderly. They're focusing on disabled individuals,
Yes.
non-English speakers. And I feel like that is the type of charity that we should be supporting, because
Absolutely.
these are the ones that don't have awesome homeowners insurance and renters insurance. You know, these are the individuals who lose everything and they don't have a big fat savings account to help them rebuy everything. So please consider donating. Even if you're watching the replay, that money goes directly to them.
we don't see a penny of it.
We don't see a penny of it. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. We appreciate you. I don't know what the heck we're going to talk about next Friday, but we'll figure something out. I know that this upcoming Tuesday, I am releasing my 2025 official trend report. This will be a little bit different than
Somebody
the one.
asked about that, if you were going to be doing one of those.
Yep, that will be this upcoming Tuesday. So guys, thanks so much for staying in the loop with us, and hopefully everybody in California is staying safe. And if you're over, near us, get prepared for the snowstorm, because that's going to be hitting any time now.
0 to 5 inches. Oh, yeah.
On top of the foot that we already have outside. So it's going to be, we had about 16 inches of snow on the porch. We couldn't get the front door all the way open because the snow was so high.
But
and
my kid's old enough to do the shoveling, and I don't have to anymore, so that's pretty cool.
she was laying out in a snowdrift.
Yeah, she got like halfway done and just laid outside.
Mark was standing in the window watching her, and he went, "Okay, she moved. She's not dead." So it's like, is she taking a break, or did she pass out from exhaustion? Nope, she's fine. She's wiggling around. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.